welcome to Rotted Review of the Day, and today it is Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas Eve. I hope everybody out there is having a great holiday season, and today I will be tackling another double feature of Christmas horror movie reviews leading up to my 300th review tomorrow, Christmas Day. So, the first movie that I'm tackling is the 1984 movie Tales of the Third Dimension. Now, I had never heard of this before, and I had a lot of trouble getting my hands on a copy of this, but I did manage to find that somebody had uploaded the entire thing, apparently from an old VHS cassette, onto YouTube. I don't know how long it'll stay there, but I'm going to go ahead and chance this and link it, because honestly, this is a movie that needs to be seen. From what I can tell, this has not entered into the realm of the cult classic, because I check on the IMDb page, and all this has is 91 reviews to it. It has not blown up, and you know what? It should. So if I can bring some light to this movie, I'm going to do it. Now, I say I never heard of this movie, and that holds true. The reason this came across my desk in the first place is because of a friend of mine, Dr. Nicholas Schlegel, who, if you remember back in 2018 at my 4-hour live stream on site at Alfred University, he was a part of that. He joined in for some Q&A and some interviews, and he is one of the most knowledgeable folks that I know on horror films. And I mean, he's even written academic textbooks. If you wanted to check it out, I'll go ahead and throw the link below. But he wrote the book Sex, Sadism, Spain, and Cinema, the Spanish Horror Film. And I just kind of want to give a little bit of a shout out to him. It's a good read, but it is an academic read, so it is on the expensive side. But I'll link it below just in case. Anyway, I'll give some props to a friend of mine here. Because he put this in front of me. I was talking to him. I was just shooting the shit like I love to do. And I was mentioning that I was doing this advent calendar of Christmas horror movies. And he mentioned, hey, Mike, you should check this one out. And when I did find the copy on YouTube, I decided to go ahead and give it a whirl for this year. And boy, what a surprise I found in this one. Now, this is an anthology horror that is made up of 3 segments, and only the third one is of a Christmas theme. The other 2 are just kind of your generic horror. This honestly has kind of this has a vibe of taking the Amicus anthologies and then having them kind of transported to the American 80s. And there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek comedy and level of humor with it. The Binding storyline has kind of a Crypt Keeper-esque notion to it, but done totally in the tone and timbre of Rod Serling, as well as having vultures sitting on the things, and 2 of them were mimicking Laurel and Hardy, and then 3 of them were mimicking the Three Stooges.
It evaporates like dewdrops beneath the shimmer of a relentless sun.
He certainly has a way with words. He certainly does.
Education's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, makes me wish I had one.
Pipe down, you blade brains. Can't you see the man is talking?
It's that kind of tongue-in-cheek humor level to this, but regardless, the segments themselves had some cheek to them, but it also did kind of manage to go fully on the horror side. I mean, it wasn't just straight comedy that happened to have some blah, blah, blah. Speaking of blah, 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 the writer and director of the Christmas segment, which was called Visions of Sugar Plums, was one of the story writer creators of the movie, or the story behind the movie of Hotel Transylvania. So take that for what you will. I kind of want to give a little bit of an overview of the first 2 just because I want to review the entirety of this movie, but I really want to get into the Christmas segment because that's the one that left its mark on me. So this has 3 segments, like I said. The first one is Youngblood, which is kind of, I don't know, I would say a fairly generic vampire take, having to do with the vampires wanting to seek adoption of a child. So there was kind of their dealings with the adoption agency. Then The Guardians, which was a tale of pretty much just some grave robbers and so on, trying to break into a crypt. And then Visions of Sugar Plums. This is where the gold is. I would say that the Binding segments of the Igor, Rod Serling kind of thing, it's campy, it's cheesy, it's fun. I would say that it's worthwhile. I mean, don't fast forward through it. But the first 2 segments are okay. But this is where the movie really gets it, where I would say that everybody needs to watch this. Now, the Vision of Sugar Plums storyline is almost a spiritual predecessor to the M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Visit. Mother and father need to go on vacation. So they basically drop the 2 young kids off at grandma's while they hightail it to Hawaii. They're going to be gone for a week and come back Christmas Eve so they can spend Christmas proper with the family. But for right now, they need a break. They're gone. So apparently grandma only has enough medication, generic medication, who knows what it's for, but we start to kind of get clued in on it because she only has enough for a day or two. And then when she runs out, things steadily start ramping up. She starts acting very peculiar. She starts acting very aggressive. Her verbal tones, she can kind of turn on a dime. She's putting rat poison in her hot cocoa. Just all sorts of crazy shit starts going on. And it basically leads to the night of Christmas Eve as the kids are scared. They are waiting for their parents to show up, fresh from their vacation. They just want to get away from grandma and get out of the house. And it turns into an absolute manic, cocaine-filled fury of a chase sequence where she is chasing around the house in a motorized wheelchair with a shotgun, trying to shoot them, shooting everything else in sight, all to the sped-up tune of Jingle Bells. It's just the craziest shit ever, and I would go into it from there, but it's just the best thing. I don't want to spoil it any more than I have. Suffice it to say, it just keeps ramping up. If you think that that's as crazy as it gets, think again. I was going to watch both movies today. I was going to watch both of them in sequential order, then sit down and do 2 recordings, 2 edits, so on and so forth. And what happened was I finished watching this. I went to my fiance. I was describing this. I was trying to get out some of the plot points through just through this kind of laughter. And I yelled, you know what? I got to review this. I got to review this while it's in my heart because I don't want to have another movie come between what I'm feeling about on the tail end of watching this movie. And, I don't want to have that sullied. I have this fantastic feeling of absolute manic Christmas cheer that I just watched something incredibly special. So I'm going to go ahead and throw up all the scores here. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. And taking everything into account, the plot and so on and so forth was done fairly well. It was an average kind of thing. It had a very 80s vibe to it, a very tongue-in-cheek kind of vibe to it, some comedy that worked, some comedy that didn't overall. But the intention score is the one that I want to highlight the most, and that is solely because of the Visions of Sugar Plums segment within this film. This had me rolling. I was just enjoying the shit out of watching this movie, and I really think that this needs to get seen. This needs to blow up. This needs to be front and center in the public eye, and more people need to watch Tales of the Third Dimension, specifically for the Visions of Sugar Plum segment. If this is the review that does that, then I am going to be such a happy man, because the intention of what this movie set out to do, I believe it did in spades. So 24 out of 25 points, absolutely no problem giving it that high. And that gives us a grand total of 76 out of 100 points. This was a great movie. This had some bad moments to it. This had some cheesy moments to it. This had some amateurish, effects and so on. The talking puppets of the vultures and so on and so forth. It was just all very ham-fisted and kind of, like I said, I think this is probably the most in any review I've ever said the words tongue-in-cheek, but it's tongue-in-cheek. But if you are a fan of horror movies and Christmas horror movies, and especially that level of manic humor, that just when things start going really ridiculous and they just keep ramping it up until you just can't believe what you're watching on the screen, then I would strongly recommend that I don't know how long this YouTube link is going to last, but I'm going to link it, and I would recommend at the very least going ahead and watching the Visions of Sugar Plum segment in there, because this is one for the ages. But that is my review of Tales of the Third Dimension. I really thank you for joining me here today, and thank you again, Nicholas Schlegel, for recommending this one to me. If you like this video, please click like and subscribe, and if you want to support me further, my Patreon and my merchandise storefront links are below. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.